So I'm going to have a little different introduction this time, and that is because I've got a medical need that has become rather urgent. I actually have two medical needs, but one of them, a brother in the Lord who's a subscriber here, has committed himself to helping take care of that. So if he has the ability to and willingness still, then that will be taken care of. So I will follow up with him on that. But the second need is this eye is damaged, that I have damage to this eye that requires a replacement of the lens. And so when I close this eye, I can see the light ring, I can see the light from the screen and light on white paper, and I can see black wherever there's black, like this area where I've got cables and my glasses case and things like that. It's just all black, it's just a black area. So I can't use this eye like for walking or anything like that. It does contribute a little bit of data, to supplement this eye, but I don't have depth of vision. And so when I'm walking down the street, it's easier for me to hop up on the curb rather than step up on the curb. Because if I step up on the curb, I'm always misjudging how far it is to the curb. So if I jump up, like hop up, then there's no guessing, right? You just hop till you fall, right? And you fall onto the pavement and you're standing there. But that's how it is for me. And if I walk up the street, sometimes I don't have so much control. So the reason it's become urgent isn't only my walking ability, but also my mental acuity. It's so distracting constantly throughout the day, all day long, everywhere I go. This blur, this constant blur. And what happens is because I don't have any kind of detail, the eye floats. And so even like I see the light ring, just a minute ago while I'm speaking, I noticed the light ring from this eye was over here, not here where it is from this eye. Like, when you look with two eyes, it's in the same place, right? But this eye will float and it'll move things over. And what it looks like from you on the outside is you'll see the eye going like that. And so, of course, that makes it difficult for other people when they're talking to me or listening to me, especially to take me seriously when I'm preaching the gospel. And so it's distracting for them as well. And it diminishes the testimony that I'm giving to them and the preaching that I'm delivering. So this has become urgent in many different ways. So I need to get this fixed. So if any of you have thought in your heart about giving something extra, like a special one-time gift, this is the opportunity for that. It's become a real serious problem for me at this point. I need to get this fixed. So I'm going to ask you that if you have it in your heart to give something extra towards this, go ahead and go to the description down below and give the gift. It's become urgent for me to get these fixed. So I hope that you'll go before the Lord and you will search your heart and you will find it in your heart to make a one-time gift to help me with this. Now on with the lesson. So today I'm going to read to you a fresh translation of Isaiah 11 verses 1 through 4. Now verse 5 goes with these, but it was quite difficult to translate that because I'm missing some tools. This is part of the programming project, that I need to get done for the Old Testament. So I'm missing those tools that I use in order to expedite the translation. So you're going to get verses 1 through 4. Verse 5, it's a great verse, but it's not essential to what we're doing today. Our purpose today in showing you verses 1 through 4 is verse 4 and how it is a parallel to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. And we'll read that from the rooted word as well. So these are both the rooted word. Isaiah 11, 1 through 4, especially 4, and 2 Thessalonians 2, 8. And I'm going to prove something to you that you have never heard before. This is a truth about 2 Thessalonians and the Lawless One. Because all these wild speculators out there who love to talk about the rapture, and they're all pre-trib rapture believers, because people who believe other than pre-trib rapture are not lunatics. If you want to know why I say lunatics, go watch this video. And if you're one of them, then you are in a delusion. You are following heresy, and you need to watch this video. And you'll know that it's the truth because of the details of the scripture. And what they love to do is brush over the details and oversimplify and reduce everything down to a marketing phrase, and then hang their belief and their faith on that marketing phrase rather than on Jesus and the testimony that God gave us in its great and glorious detail. So here we go. If you watch my videos, you know that's what this channel is about. It's about looking into the testimony of God without shirking back and taking what it says for what it says. Believing God. All right, here we go. This is the translation. That's right. My notes. Fresh translation. Okay? So it's going to be the Precise English edition because it's not worked out for more common English. So it's going to be a little rough sounding in a couple places, but that's all right. You'll still understand it. It's still English. Isaiah 11, 1 through 4, the rooted word, Precise English edition. And a stick will itself come out of the root of Jesse, and a blossom will itself step up. And a spirit of the God will pause from above upon him, a spirit of wisdom and perceptual assembling of understanding, a spirit of intentional will and strength, a spirit of knowledge and of reverence, a spirit of fear of God will completely fill him. He will not divide by distinguishing for decision in synchronicity with the glorious reputation, not even in synchronicity with talk will he convict. But he will divide by distinguishing for decision, a decision to a lowly one. And he will convict the lowly ones of the soil of the ground. And he will strike with a single blow ground in the word from the mouth of him, from his mouth. And in a spirit through his lips will take up for himself irreverent ones. All right. Now, especially that last phrase, let's read the rooted word, Common English edition, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. And at the time that the lawless man will be stolen away, whom the Lord will take up for himself in the spirit of his mouth, also he will make idle accordingly in synchronicity with the shining upon from his being alongside. Jesus shining upon him from carrying him alongside, from having him alongside him, because he took up the lawless one for himself. Now, as I've taught before, and you've heard me teach before, that here it's not talking about an individual who will rise up as some sort of antichrist. They love to say that. Antichrist isn't mentioned at all by Paul in 1st or 2nd Thessalonians, or by Paul anywhere else. It's only mentioned by John, and only in 2 letters, 1 John and 2 John, only place in the entire Bible that the Antichrist is named. So, we cannot assign it here. But what we do find is that the lawless one is a type of man, a type of person. It's a template of a person. It's a kind of person. A person who is lawless. Okay? We find that here as well when he uses the same kind of verbiage referring to the irreverent ones. Okay? He hasn't typed them into a type. He is keeping them as a category. Irreverent ones. It says, in a spirit through the lips, he will take up for himself irreverent ones. Okay? That's the amazing parallel right there. Is it is using the same wording about both of these. They're the same thing here. It's about Jesus in both cases, because the description about this is Jesus in 11:1 through 3 and 4 and 5, for sure. And it's about the end times, because in verse 6, it immediately goes into that famous phrase, which is bastardized thanks to all of the misquoting by pastors from the pulpit, by Martin Luther King himself, by Elvis Presley in Peace in the Valley. I mean, he didn't write that, but he sang it and popularized it in pop culture at least. But look, it says, and the wolf, this is verse 6, right after talking about Jesus. It says, and the wolf shall feed with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the kid, and the young calf and bull and lion shall feed together, and a little child shall lead them. And the ox and bear shall feed together, and their young shall be together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. And an infant shall put his hand on the holes of asps, and on the nest of young asps, and they shall not hurt, nor shall they at all be able to destroy anyone on my holy mountain. For the whole world is filled with the knowledge of the Lord, as much water covers the seas. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, and he shall arise to rule over the Gentiles. In him shall the Gentiles trust, and his rest shall be glorious. Okay? And it keeps going. So it's talking about the last days. This is Jesus that we're talking about. So the irreverent ones are equivalent to the lawless one. Isaiah 11:4 is a parallel passage testifying to the same event, proves the lawless one is a template of a kind of person equal to the irreverent ones. Okay? It's beautiful when I can show you that Old Testament and New Testament, Old Testament in the Septuagint and New Testament in the Byzantine majority text, which is over 90% of the manuscripts in existence for the New Testament. When I can show you that they say the same things and they reinforce each other and they fill out some of the meaning that's missing. Even the Old Testament filling out some of the meaning that's not there in the New Testament. That the writers of the New Testament assume that you know, because Old Testament for them was the scriptures. And so they assumed you know that, and they're writing based on that knowledge. So if they do leave out some details that are in the Old Testament, it's not because they're being fraudulent. It's because they're assuming that you have this knowledge, which we don't typically have today. That's why it's critical to immerse yourself in the Old Testament. Okay? And that's also why it's critical for us to get this programming project finished, so that I can have an efficient way of translating the Old Testament, so that we can get more of the Old Testament done. So I hope that this has blessed you, this teaching, and that helps to solidify the integrity of the Old and New Testament together as the testimony of God. May the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart.